Mr. CEO, can you read my letter? It's got my heart in it, and it's real important. The gleaming headquarters of a multinational corporation, its childish scrawls standing out amid stacks of corporate mail. Inside, words penned by a 9-year-old girl from a forgotten corner of the American South, words that would unravel the composure of a powerful CEO, reducing him to silent tears in his corner office. What could a child's simple letter contain to shatter the facade of a man who built an empire on steel and strategy? As the story unfolds, you'll discover how one small voice exposed the deep scars of racial injustice, forcing a reckoning that echoed far beyond boardrooms. Stay with me. This tale of quiet courage will grip your heart and challenge your soul until the very end. In the humid sprawl of a small Alabama town, where cotton fields whispered secrets to the wind and old prejudices lingered like shadows under magnolia trees, lived a girl named Aaliyah. At just 9 years old, she navigated a world that often felt tilted against her. Her skin, a rich shade of mahogany, marked her as different in a community where history's wounds festered quietly. Aaliyah's family had roots deep in the soil. Her grandparents had marched for civil rights. Her mother worked 2 jobs at a local factory, and her father drove trucks across state lines, always returning with stories of wary glances at rest stops. The town itself was a patchwork of progress and stagnation. Shiny billboards advertised products from Apex Industries, a massive corporation specializing in everyday essentials, from school supplies to household goods that dominated shelves nationwide. Aaliyah loved browsing the local Apex store with her mother on weekends, her eyes lighting up at the colorful displays. But beneath the surface, unease simmered. Whispers followed them in aisles, security guards hovering a bit too close, their presence a silent accusation. Aaliyah noticed how the ads on TV featured families that looked nothing like hers, always smiling white faces, perfect and untroubled. One sweltering afternoon, curiosity sparked in Aaliyah's young mind. She began collecting scraps of paper, jotting down observations about the world around her. School was no refuge. Classmates mimicked slurs they'd heard at home, isolating her during recess. Teachers overlooked her raised hand, praising others instead. Yet Aaliyah found solace in writing, her pencil a bridge to unseen possibilities. Little did she know, a single incident would transform her innocent notes into a plea that could pierce the corporate veil. As tensions in town mounted, with protests over unequal school funding drawing national eyes, Aaliyah's world teetered on the edge of change, her small hands poised to tip the balance. As summer faded into fall, the undercurrents of racism in Aaliyah's town swelled into visible waves. It started steadily, with Aaliyah's family facing longer waits at the Apex store checkout, cashiers fumbling transactions while chatting amiably with white customers ahead. Then came the day that etched itself into Aaliyah's memory like a scar. Her mother, exhausted from a double shift, needed school supplies for Aaliyah's upcoming year. They entered the store under fluorescent lights that buzzed like judgment. Aaliyah clutched a list, notebooks, pencils, a backpack emblazoned with superheroes. But as they shopped, a store manager trailed them, his footsteps deliberate, eyes narrowing at every item they touched. When Aaliyah reached for a display of colorful markers, promoted in Apex's latest ad campaign featuring diverse kids, ironically, the manager intervened. He claimed the items were out of stock, despite the full shelves, steering them toward cheaper, generic alternatives in a dim corner. Humiliation burned in Aaliyah's cheeks as other shoppers stared, some whispering. Her mother, voice steady but eyes glistening, paid quickly and left, the incident a silent theft of dignity. Back home, Aaliyah's hurt festered. At school, the bullying intensified. A group of boys cornered her in the playground, mocking her braided hair and calling her names that echoed the town's unspoken divides. Notes slipped into her desk read, "Go back where you came from," anonymous barbs that teachers dismissed as kids being kids. The community's racial tensions boiled over when a local Apex factory laid off mostly black workers, citing restructuring, while hiring white applicants for similar roles. Protests erupted outside the store, signs decrying systemic bias, but media coverage painted them as disruptions rather than cries for justice. Aaliyah, witnessing it all, felt a storm building inside her. She pored over news clippings her grandmother saved, Stories of past injustices, from segregated lunch counters to modern-day disparities in education and employment. Inspired by tales of young activists, she began crafting a letter in secret, her words pouring out like a river long dammed. She described the store incident, the playground taunts, the ads that erased families like hers. Each sentence layered tension, her innocence clashing with the harsh realities she articulated. Unbeknownst to her, this letter would travel from her cluttered desk to the heart of Apex's empire, exposing cracks in a system built on inequality. As she sealed the envelope, addressing it to the CEO himself, whose name she found in a magazine, the stakes rose, her small act poised to ignite a firestorm of accountability. The letter arrived at Apex Industries' towering headquarters in New York like a whisper in a hurricane of corporate chaos. CEO Jonathan Hargrove, a self-made titan in his 50s, sifted through his mail with practiced detachment, reports, invitations, the occasional fan letter. But this envelope, smudged with a child's fingerprints and stamped from rural Alabama, caught his eye. He opened it absent-mindedly, expecting perhaps a school project or a complaint about product quality. As his eyes scanned the looping handwriting, the words hit like successive blows. Aaliyah detailed the store manager's suspicion, the playground slurs that made her dread recess, the factory layoffs that left her neighbors hungry. She wrote of Apex's ads, how they promised inclusivity but delivered erasure, making her feel invisible in her own country. Her descriptions painted vivid scenes, the sting of being followed in aisles, the ache of unacknowledged potential at school, the broader web of racism woven into daily life. Hargrove's hands trembled, memories of his own privileged upbringing flooded back, contrasting sharply with Aaliyah's raw vulnerability. Tears welled as he reached the core, a plea not for pity, but for change. She asked why companies like his perpetuated divides, why her story wasn't seen in their campaigns. The intensity peaked when he envisioned her face, young and resolute, challenging the empire he had built without questioning its foundations. Alone in his office, overlooking the city skyline, Hargrove broke down, sobs echoing off glass walls. This wasn't just a letter. It was a mirror reflecting the complicity he had ignored. In that moment of shattering clarity, the weight of unchecked injustice crushed his defenses, forcing him to confront the human cost of his success. In the wake of that emotional unraveling, Jonathan Hargrove transformed his tears into action. He launched an internal investigation at Apex, uncovering patterns of bias in hiring and customer treatment across branches. The Alabama store manager was retrained, policies rewritten to mandate diversity training, and the factory rehired affected workers with back pay. Aaliyah's letter inspired a new ad campaign featuring real families from diverse backgrounds, her story subtly woven in as a catalyst for authenticity. Word spread through media outlets, turning Aaliyah into an unwitting symbol of resilience. Her town saw ripples. Schools implemented anti-bias programs, community dialogues bridged old divides, and Apex donated to local education funds. Aaliyah, now 10, received a personal response, not just words, but scholarships and invitations to headquarters, where she met Hargrove, his eyes still carrying the humility her letter instilled. Yet the true impact lingered in the quiet shifts. Families like Aaliyah's shopped without fear, children played without slurs, and corporations nationwide examined their roles in perpetuating inequality. This tale, inspired by real accounts of young voices sparking corporate reform amid America's ongoing struggle with racism, reminds us that change often begins with the smallest hands. What if one letter could rewrite the narrative for millions? Reflect on the unseen injustices around you. Could your voice be the next to bring a giant to tears?